Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Future of BizTech. I'm your host, JC Granger, and I'm interviewing Lance Keene today. Lance is the founder and CEO of Keene Systems. Lance, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what does Keene Systems do?
All right. Thanks for having me. Keene Systems is a 38-year-old software consulting firm with a staff of 35 developers. We primarily specialize in Microsoft technologies, ASP.NET and SQL Server. And what we do is we build web applications for corporations to manage their data processing, their data management and workflow in the companies.
So, are you allowed to talk about some of your biggest clients, or can you describe them?
Sure,
Who
sure.
mostly
Yeah,
likes?
I'll tell you one of our largest clients is a this $200 million underground utility construction firm in Massachusetts. What they do is they lay down the gas pipelines for the gas utilities. So the way they used to operate about 12 years ago, before they hired us, was they had these pre-printed paper forms that the foremen and supervisors would fill out in the field, which would describe everything that happened in the field. That everything that happens in the field is billable. So every day, this mountain of paper from 80 teams would come into the back office, and they had no application to store this data. So they did what all people do when they're tasked with storing data. They just open up Microsoft Excel and they start typing away. So
Yeah.
here they are using a database, a spreadsheet instead of a database to manage this $200 million company. And as you
Wow.
can probably imagine, it was a complete and total disaster. There was no workflow, lots and lots of errors. And they had a small army of people in the back office typing all this stuff in, and very, very error prone. It would take them about 6 weeks to get an invoice out. So we analyzed everything that they were doing, all of their needs surrounding their data management needs and their workflow, and we built them a comprehensive work management system that manages everything that goes on out in the field, and it ties directly into their corporate accounting system. So now the data is entered in the field, the guys have tablets, and that goes directly into the database. All the people in the back office who are doing the billing, now it all comes up on their screens already in the system, and they can do approvals and tweaking the billing and making sure everything is correct before it gets sent to the. And we've even integrated with some of their clients, companies like National Grid and Unitil, these big energy companies, to pass data directly to those companies and get their approvals. Also, we integrated with, they were bought a few years ago by an even bigger company that owns, I think it's something like 42 different business units just like them. And we had to integrate with their corporate SAP systems to pass data to corporate too.
So, how do web apps differ from mobile apps? Like for people who don't know the difference, right?
All right. Well, the mobile app will run specifically on a mobile device. What we tend to do is write mobile responsive apps that will run on both. They'll work both on a desktop and on a cell phone or a tablet.
So that, yeah, so it seems like it's a simpler version instead of someone having to download from an app store, which has restrictions and a lot of,
Yeah.
you can just say, listen, it's going to function the same, but we're going to tie this into your database and you can just go to this website and log in from your phone or your desktop.
Correct.
It
Correct.
functions.
And the obviously you're dealing with a smaller screen, so the mobile responsive apps will reconfigure every screen automatically when you're looking at it on a smaller device. So that's
Yeah,
the
or a
advantage.
tablet or,
So the
whatever.
advantage of that is you only have one set of code. Whereas if you did it the other way, you'd have one application for the desktop browser, and then you'd have a different native application that would run either on an iPhone or an Android. So that means you have to, it doubles your maintenance and support if you want to go that route.
So this actually is a simpler version on the
Correct.
load. there also. And it sounds like does it cost less to do if you're doing a web app
Yeah,
versus a
it definitely costs less because you've only got one copy of the application. You don't have to duplicate that functionality in two different versions.
yeah, like Android versus
Yeah.
Apple thing.
So it also, if you do it that way, it also creates a kind of a maintenance nightmare because you have to upgrade the mobile version and then you have to also update the version that runs in a regular desktop browser.
So they're faster to build, they cost less, and they have less maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay, web apps are great then. We all love web apps now. Fantastic. Okay, so how long have you guys been around? I mean, when did you start this, and what motivated you to even create a company like this? Were you at some corporate
Yeah.
job and everything
Well,
sucked?
yeah, a little quick background. I was a computer programmer in the United States Army, and I got to live in Germany. Had a great time in the Army. And when I got out, I went to Florida Institute of Technology to get my computer science degree. And I was doing consulting there, and the guy that I was working for had recommended that I incorporate. And I was minoring in business, so I thought, wow, that would be great. I could have my own corporation. So it's like, because that was my goal ever since I was 18, actually 17, trying to plan my life. I remember being at a party when I was 17, and this girl's father asked me, "So, son, what are you going to do after graduation?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to go into the Army and be study computer science. I'll get out and get a computer science degree, and then I'll go do consulting, maybe work for somebody like IBM, and then I'll start my own business." So that's exactly what I did. But it was, and coincidentally, my first job out of school was with IBM in Austin, Texas. So I can't believe I got that right at 17. But I started the business earlier. So I started the Keene Systems in 1987 while I was still a junior in at Florida Institute of Technology. So we've
Wow.
been around for um, 38 years, several different business models, starting out first as just me being an independent consultant. In the 1990s, I had partnered with a packaging engineer and we developed a product for the packaging industry. You'd know all the clients that used our product to manage all of their packaging information. Companies like Calvin Klein, Ocean Spray, Hormel, Uncle Ben's, Mary Kay, Kimberly Clark, Pfizer. All of these guys used our product to manage their packaging specifications, and we customized it for each one of them because everybody did it a little different. We eventually sold that 1999 to another company. Early 2000s, doing independent consulting again, and this is about the time that Microsoft came out with their web technology. And in 2002, Microsoft released ASP.NET, which is their premier web technology. Knowing a little bit about marketing, I did a web marketing campaign on that myself, and I very quickly shot to number one in Google for all search terms having to do with ASP.NET. And that was the beginning of it. And once we were coming out, I don't know if you remember the recession with the .com, when the
Oh yeah.
.com bubble burst.
Yeah.
I remember going into Home Depot and seeing computer programmers in there with aprons on. Like, dude, what are you doing? You're a programmer. He said, I got a mortgage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Got
during,
bad. Yeah.
as we were coming out of that recession, the web marketing started kicking in and the phone just started ringing off the hook. So I got an old business partner and we started growing the team and started hiring people. And so now we've got a team of around 35 people,
Wow.
primarily focusing on the Microsoft
It
technologies.
sounds like the huge demand that was coming in for that. I mean, you hit at the right stride, right? I've always said that, a successful business has a little bit of luck, but you have to be in a position to take advantage of a lucky moment, right? So if you
Right.
don't have the infrastructure, it doesn't matter how many lucky moments come your way, they all pass by, right?
Yeah,
But you were
and you
set.
have to have the vision to be able to
Yeah.
see it and to look past your initial fear
Mhm.
fear of failure, and just dive right in and give it your all.
Yeah. So, I mean, you guys have been in business so long. What are what were some of the initial or midway struggles that I mean, there had to be a moment where you were like, "Holy crap, like are we even going to be able to solve this problem?" I mean, there's
Yeah.
just no way that it was perfect the whole time. So like,
Oh
what
yeah, it's
was one of
been
the past
lots
ones and
and
then like
lots of ups and
yeah.
downs. The first one that comes to mind was, when you're doing independent consulting, it's pretty straightforward. You're working for somebody else and they tell you what to do. But when we made the jump into having a software product, oh man, that's a different world. You're working and working and working, building the product, and you're not getting paid. So
Mm.
you are literally living hand to mouth. You're broke all the time. You're eating ramen noodle soup because it's all you can afford. And until that product is viable and you can sell it, it's really tough to get a software product off the ground.
Yeah, I remember when I first started my agency like 14 years ago, we started off, all we did, and you can, I guess, appreciate this, all we did was make big websites into tiny websites. Because there was like
Hmm.
this first 3 year run when we started, it was like 2011, and it was every website or I would say everyone had a mobile phone, like a smartphone. It just hit the market, it was like on year 5 or 6, whatever the market. So you had this 3 year, 4 year period where everyone had a small device, but almost none of the big websites were mobile friendly.
Uh,
It was like just hot spot, and it was just, I mean, we said, hey, let's just do that. Let's just take big websites, turn them into little websites, and that's it, right? There wasn't responsive websites then. They didn't automatically do that. So we literally had to like recreate the website in a small version that would fit on these ones. But like you said though, it's peaks and valleys, right? You might get 3 or 4 projects, but then you're waiting for the next one. You're like, all right, ramen noodle time again, which I'm very familiar with because I went to college and all poor college students eat ramen noodles. But no, like I get that part. Let me ask you, what is your biggest struggle you think now, right? I mean, being a business owner, it's never perfect even when you're doing well. I mean,
yeah.
you guys have been in business so long, so we know you made it. We know you're good. But what is the thing that you struggle with the most right now that's kind of hardest in this industry?
Yeah, the way we've always done marketing ever since 2000 has been through search engine optimization,
Mhm.
and it's our number one way of bringing in new business. We've made millions of dollars by ranking well in Google. And the problem is Google's always changing up the algorithm. So it's this cat and mouse game, uh, and Google's in the past years changed everything up again. Things that used to work are just don't work anymore, and our websites dropped in ranking. So my job number one now is keeping my nose to the grindstone and working on marketing every single day.
Mhm.
Uh, it's really the only way to keep our heads above water here is to get that ranking back again in Google. And I think AI has a lot to do with it, um, because things that used to be in the regular search are now being served up through AI. It just
Yeah, it's
attended a webinar
SEO.
on that this
Really
afternoon.
changed.
So
Yeah,
we're trying to get our head around what does this all mean in the new world of AI as it relates to search.
yeah, AI is so I was reading a stat the other day that it said something like 85% of people don't even scroll at all anymore if there is an AI option to answer their question. Now, not obviously not all AI answers are where you can stop, right? So if you're looking for a specific type of website, you have to scroll to actually click and get to there. But with most searches answering questions, those questions used to be answered from a website that was relevant, whereas now they'll just give you the answer. So yeah, the whole game has changed. If you're working on an SEO
Yeah.
model, here's the good news though. Good news is when something comes in like this, a big change, and it comes in fast and it disrupts what you were doing, it also means that if you can figure out the solution before anyone else, or let's say before your competitors specifically, not only are you in good shape, you're in way better shape than you were before. And so this is something we've been looking a lot at right now, which is people referring to it as ASEO or AI SEO, right? Which just sounds like an old McDonald's song, like E-I-E-I-O. But
Mhm.
so like it's basically, how do you become the thing that the LLM, right, or that the AI says that you're the answer to, right? How do you become the thing? Because it's only going to give one or two referrals. That's it, right?
Yeah,
And so it's
that
way
was
more
kind of the
important.
subject of this webinar I attended today. It was just that. It's like how do you get some recognition from the AI bots
Yeah.
that are out
And
there
answers natural.
constantly scanning your website to
Hmm.
add to their knowledge base.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is, again, what's interesting is because it's new, it can be, I don't want to say tricked. What I can say is that it is working off of a model that many people have not reverse engineered yet.
Right.
Once you figure out what's most important to AI, it's pretty easy to then just do a lot of that. Now, again, that will have a time limit, right? Like, remember SEO way back in the day. I've been doing this 25 years. I
Yeah.
remember that the best way to do SEO was people would just write paragraphs and keywords, and they would put it in the same font as the background, and it was just on the
Oh, yeah.
website. It was the simplest hack on the planet. And listen, that worked for like a few years, right?
Yes,
Which
it
is
did.
insane.
I
But then
remember that.
eventually, yeah, eventually,
Yeah, and
obviously Google
I
got
did the
smarter.
same. I didn't use that technique because that had already fallen out of favor.
Yeah,
But I was
it
able
just
to
shows you.
reverse engineer Google
Yeah.
and see the problem is, when you're doing marketing, if you have systems like Upwork and Angie's List, which is called Angie now, they actually human um, review process where
Mhm.
you get best ranking based on
Yeah, ratings.
your ratings. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But in Google, the way it has always worked, the company that comes to the top of the Google list is the company that can dupe Google better than anybody else
Pretty much,
into
right? Who
thinking
can
that you're
who
the
can
best
game the
company in
system
the
better?
world.
I mean, we're
Yeah,
humans. We're always
exactly.
looking to game the system, right? But let's circle back around to you guys again here. As far as I like to talk about the future, not only of the technology, right? Future of biz tech here behind me, but I like to also ask about your future. So it's a two-part question. The first one being, if we were to have this podcast again in a year from now, like where would you be? What is your 12-month goal as a company, right? And that's whether it be revenue or growth or selling. I don't know what it is. In any way that you want to answer that, go ahead. And then the second part is where do you see web app technology going in the next 3 to 4 years with all things considered right now going on technology wise?
All right. So where do we want to be next year? Well, we're hoping to get this uh, get in a better position marketing wise. So that's why that's getting my undivided attention right now. Would like to double revenue within the next 2 to 3 years. I'm 63 now. I would like to be able to retire in 5 years. And
Okay.
so I'm starting to put processes in place to where I can make that happen, where we can sell the company. I've been able to replace. I'm a big. I don't know if you've ever heard of this book. It's called The E Myth
Yeah,
by
yeah. I've
by
read that one
Michael
and the
Michael
Revisited
Gerber. I
series.
first read this in the 1990s, and Gerber talks about every business should be designed and run as if it were a franchise. So what does that mean? Is it means you completely document everything that is done in the business, and you instead of the owner running everything, you can start plugging ordinary people into this extraordinary process, and you get the same results out. So you think of something like Burger King, where you can go to Washington D.C and the quality of the burger will be identical to the burger that you get in New Hampshire because they have this extraordinary process for guaranteeing success in the production of the product. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of small businesses fail is they haven't really done that. And I've been able to replace myself in many areas of the company. What's left is, being able to replace myself in sales and marketing, um, project management, and then overall executive function in the company. If I can um, replace myself in those three things, then the company has value and can actually be sold. But
Sure.
it's not there yet. So we're a few years out from that. That's where I would like to be. Now, the other half of your question is, where's the technology going?
Yeah, I mean, do you see like AI affecting web apps? Do you see
Yeah,
any kind of
yeah.
computing or resources that would make those more necessary or easier to do or anything like that?
Yeah, one of the things that we're starting to look into now is, AI is good for some functions, but not so great for things. One of the things I hate are chatbots. I really hate chatbots. But where AI really shines is in repetitive, well-defined um, functions. And what's a good example of that? Writing code. The by using best practices and the AI can be trained, what does good software look like? And so data entry screens, which are a huge part of any application, you have data entry screens. Those can be banged out in a matter of minutes using AI. Now, I'm not talking about the future, but now. So now we deal with a lot of small clients. We've got some big clients like the one I explained earlier, but most of our clients are small clients where you send them a $5,000 bill and it's painful for them to pay that.
Yeah.
They're a little mom and pop shop, and um, a lot of our projects are from 20 to $150,000, and these are painful for small businesses. So if we can, what we're in the process of doing now is training the staff to write code using AI, so we can do it quicker and cheaper, and we can meet the needs of our small clients.
I like that. Yeah, I'd like the way you phrased it too about helping your current employees do more. I think the problem that I personally find with where AI is going is there's a lot of corporate leaders that talk about it in this nuanced form of it can help save labor costs, but as in like they want to cut jobs. I'm all for AI helping us, but I have a visceral reaction to it just eliminating entire workforces.
Yeah,
So, and listen,
yeah,
you're kind of saying the
and
same thing, but you're saying it from a different angle. You're saying basically, no, 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 we can keep everyone we have, and they'll just be able to do more. And see, that's a healthy way of looking at it. It's more forward
exactly.
thinking, in my
And you're
opinion.
and the complex stuff that really takes a lot of human interaction with the client to figure out what the client actually needs.
Mhm.
That will never go away,
Yeah.
until we get to the point, what do they call it? Singularity,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
the AI is smarter than a human and can
Yeah.
actually interview a human and tease the concepts and ideas out of the client's head and actually
Yeah.
go build something. Until we can get to that point, that's quite a ways away. We're still going to need humans in here who can interact with other humans and pull it all together and do the complex stuff.
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't think it's as far away as we think, right? I think what's interesting is I think we are in an era where the things that we used to think were close are far, and the things that we think now are far are close, right? So, like when I was a kid, everyone was talking about there'll be flying cars everywhere by 2020, right? And we laugh at that now because that's just not how the reality works. It's not that the technology couldn't be there, it's just that there's more to the equation. But then I've also heard people, I mean, just naively tell me, like, oh, well, AI is not going to replace, this industry. And then within 12 months, it's basically can or has, right? And I'm like, just, be careful, what you think won't happen, because it's like hold my beer, right? And all of a sudden everything goes haywire. But all right, so here's the thing. Normally, I ask about what kind of great advice you can give. But what's interesting is that you actually already gave a lot of advice just through some of your answers here, specifically about operations and processes, right? Like you said, like the E-myth that we talked about there, recording everything you do and putting in that so you can help replace yourself. I think that's fantastic advice. So what I want to do instead, I want to switch gears and I want to ask you about your castle. I heard that you have a castle, and I cannot ignore that on a show like this. It
Yeah,
might have nothing to do. So
yes,
if you
a
could tie it in
strange
somehow, let
but
me
true.
know.
Yeah,
You have what's this
for many
castle?
years, people would say, "What? You don't have a castle, do you?" They would look at me like I had rocks in my head. But now I have the receipts. I have pictures. So way back in 1998, I bought the top of this mountain inside the White Mountain National Forest of New Hampshire. Just an incredibly beautiful place. From the cliffs, I've got more than 100, more like a 200-degree views from the cliffs. So I'm also an artist. I like all things art, drawing, painting, design, landscaping, music. Um, so I got this crazy idea because I used to live in Germany when I was a computer programmer in the army, and I traveled all over Europe and I visited a lot of castles. So I thought this property is so extraordinary. It really needs an extraordinary house. And what would be cooler than building a castle? So uh, I spent, I started in 2000. So now we're in the 25th build season. This year I've got probably like 90% of the way up with the second floor walls. And by mid June, early July, we'll pour concrete into those walls. So what I am building is a 7,500 square foot off the grid medieval castle with 6 round turrets, and we're about 600 feet up on a side of a cliff in New Hampshire. So the house will produce all of its own energy needs from geothermal, solar, wind. So I'm not just a science nerd, but an artist. So I love the convergence of science and art.
Yeah. Are you
Where,
going to retire there? Is that
yeah,
where you want to?
yeah, that's
Oh,
the
that's
plan.
fantastic.
I
You're
plan to
retiring a castle on a mountain.
retire there and be the mad scientist I was supposed to be, and
Yeah.
do my experiments and my art projects and
Yeah, you
you
say
know
you're going to retire, but I think you're going to be like Dr. Frankenstein, right? Like you're going to be up on your castle on the mountain and no one can get to you and you're going to come out with these crazy great technological innovations. Maybe that's what we need. We
yeah.
need we need our brilliant scientists and minds to we need to hold them up on a castle and not let them come out until they come up with something cool. You're doing it in retirement, but maybe we can just like grab a bunch of them and do that also. Who knows?
Yeah, so I'm
Um,
very interested in power generation and things like
yeah,
this. I'll probably be you were on the top of a mountain, so we'll definitely be doing wind experiments and
sure.
working with wind turbines, and who knows what. I come up with crazy ideas all the time. The castle design's constantly changing because of my persistent crazy ideas of
It'll never be done. It'll never be
yeah,
done.
it'll never be done. I'll be working on, landscape
Your children and
trails or
grandchildren will
something.
figure out what to do with it later.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping to finish before the kids are. Well, one's going to start college here in 2 years, and so the plan for the castle is this year finish the second floor walls. Next year we'll be doing the flat roof and the timbers that hold the roof, and then 2027 is when it all comes together because
Is
after
there a moat? Is there a drawbridge? You got to help me out
no
here.
moat. People always ask me two questions. Is there a moat? Like, no, we're on a cliff.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I
so,
mean, makes
but
it
then
even
the
more
second
difficult, I guess.
question is, are you going to have a dungeon? And I used to say no because the original plan was to backfill the foundation and pour a slab. But once the foundation walls started going up, I decided, wow, there's a lot of room under the castle.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
changed the design to put floor joists in instead, and we picked up 3 extra rooms that were unplanned that are under the castle, and one of them is under a round turret, so that's where the dungeon is. And I do
Jeez.
have a skeleton in there, and when I'm giving the tour, I said, this is where I torture my teenage daughter's boyfriends, teaching
Oh no,
them
that's a
the
good spot for it.
meaning, teaching them the meaning of the phrase, have my daughter home by 10 or else.
Or else you in the
Or
dungeon. Hey,
else.
listen, my daughter's 19. I will call you if I need a dungeon space, believe me. So hey, listen, Lance, let me ask you a question here. How can people reach you personally? I mean, if they heard anything on here they like, it's Castle, web apps, whatever. How can they really reach you personally? And then how can they reach your company if they want to go check out what you
Sure.
guys do?
You could go to the company website, keensystems.com, spelled Keene, then systems, systems.com. You can find our contact page there. If you want to see the castle, go to the castle website. Instead of Keene Systems, it is keencastle.com. Again, Keene, you can see the whole history back to 2000 when I first started working on it. Oh, I got off on a tangent here. So in 2027 is when it all comes together for the castle, because
Oh,
that's when I will hire a professional builder and take a building loan and have
shit
a
out.
builder with a crew finish it in 1 year.
All right. Well,
And
you only got a couple
they
years till
will,
then.
yeah, they will do all. I've done all the hard work, like the clearing of the lots, that 1,100-foot driveway with five
Jeez.
switchbacks, the 900 holes I had to drill in the granite to pin the foundation. All this crazy stuff is done. And then we can take a building loan and have them finish it out and do all the things that I'm not qualified to do, like plumbing and electrical.
Hey,
And
but like you said, right? You got to pass off the stuff to other people, and that is
yeah,
hiring out is one of them. So listen, for everybody listening today, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Future of Biz Tech. And hey, if you like the show, if you like hearing about Lance and his web apps and his castle specifically, I think that's really cool. Even though it has nothing to do with the future of biz tech, I love that we got to bring that in here today. Listen, like, share, follow all those things because that is how tech nerds like us find cool podcasts like this. Lance, thank you so much again for being on the show, sir.
thanks for
I
having
plan
me.
on talking to you more about this castle. I want to come check it out.
You're welcome anytime.
Have a good one. Bye bye.